The highest art of warfare is not to fight at all, but to subvert anything of value in the country of your enemy until such time that the perception of reality of your enemy is screwed up to such an extent that he does not perceive you as an enemy. You can take your enemy without a single shot being fired. Words of former KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov. The long form interview that this was drawn from is available on YouTube. If, for whatever reason, despite my previous admonitions, you have not taken the time to view that video, you definitely owe it to yourself to go back and reflect, because those seeds were planted, and those seeds very nearly succeeded in coming to full bloom and overthrowing all of the cultural institutions of the United States of America. Perilously close. And despite severe weeding, they still present a tangible, viable, and irrefutable threat if we choose to fall back on arrogance and ignore them. Like any other noxious weed, they must be snuffed out. No, they very nearly succeeded. But then a funny thing happened. A moderately articulate, spray tanned buffoon by most measures came to public prominence. And for whatever reason, he resonated with the American public in a way that people could not have predicted. Now, there's no need to rehash the timeline. We all know what happened between 2016 and 2020. We all know the malfeasance that took place in 2020 that led to what I believe to have been a necessity in the final outcome. And that's Americans getting to spend 4 years getting what they wished for with regard to a despotic regime under Joe Biden. And now Trump has reascended to office. And in spite of the nonstop negativity from the propaganda machine, things are going pretty well according to plan. Take that for whatever it's worth. But oddly enough, rather than bringing people together, and this is not the fault of anything that he's doing, he certainly managed to bring a coalition of people together across the American electorate, including demographic groups that have been thought out of touch for the Republican Party for decades. It has ultimately resulted in a divided America by virtue of the fact that he is insisting on a united America. As counterintuitive as that may seem, let me bring you back to a quote from another great president, Theodore Roosevelt, because it pretty much sums up the vibe that the current administration is trying to carry over. Times have changed. Maybe these thought processes are antiquated. I don't believe so. I think at the root of every American, we still continue to believe these things, that there can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American, but something else also, isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is a loyalty to the American people. These things seem basic. These things seem self-evident. These things seem like they would need no defense, and yet there have been outright violent pushbacks across the board from that dedicated section of noxious weeds that Bezmenov warned us about. And it has indeed created two Americas. But let's look at those two Americas. They're clear and they're easily discernible. And anyone with any sort of moral compass can easily decide which one of those Americas they align with. We have an America populated with men like Joel Salatin, the the lunatic farmer. And by the way, if you haven't had a chance to see that documentary on Angel, you owe it to yourself to watch. And men like RFK, who are trying to take powers away from those corporate conglomerates at Big Agra and Big Pharma, whose very profit margins depend on us being sick, fat, poor, and clinging to life. You have this America, Salatin and RFK. And then you have the other America, the viciousness of members of the ruling class, the ones who are supposedly our elected representatives, fighting back against such things, almost as if the money of conglomerates like Pfizer could buy off people like, well, I don't know, Pocahontas or Kirsten Sinema or even Bernie Sanders in the final analysis, as odd as that is. These people want to keep us fat, sick, poor, and dependent on Big Pharma and Big Agra, insisting that those medications and those vaccines are safe and effective, and the only way that we can live a proper, normal, healthy, and American life. Even defending Big Agra to the point of trying to insist that seed oils, listen to the experts, they'll tell you, are infinitely healthier than animal fats. It's the most insane thing in the final analysis, and only a grazer would believe it, but there are plenty of grazers around to believe it. We have one America where college-educated liberals are setting on fire the same Tesla cars and charging stations that just a few years ago they demanded we fall in line and purchase and participate in for the sake of the planet. But then you have another group of college kids in America who just this week are sloughing off their very own spring breaks in a selfless manner to help those storm-affected people in Western North Carolina rebuild. This is one America, helping itself out, helping out members of its own, in spite of the fact that those same elected representatives ignored this for years. Whether it was North Carolina just recently, or Iowa a few years before, or Palestine, Ohio, where have our elected representatives been? They are one America, but this is another America, the real America, in my estimation. You have one America populated by devout sheepdogs, men and women of law enforcement and even federal law enforcement with the Border Patrol and ICE. Just this week, those men doing their jobs deported violent criminals. That is one America, taking care of American citizens by deporting threats to their physical safety. And then you have the other America. Dictators in black robes exceeding their authority and choosing the hill to die on, that you better turn those planes around and bring those murderers and rapists back right this second. It's an unusual dichotomy, but at least it's clear. And at least there's some degree of honesty to it now. They are saying the quiet part out loud. A lot of people think this is merely a partisan divide along party politics, but I think it runs much deeper than that. Some people would tell you it's a class struggle, and I think it runs much deeper than that. I think it runs down to the very core of our souls. I think it runs down to the core of what makes us the moral or immoral individuals that we are at our core. And I think the series of events has done nothing more than expose what was already there. We could try to remain peaceful for as long as we can, and we should. Now that those people with the aforementioned moral compass are in control, we are pushing forward, as well we should. We should try to keep it above board. It is counterproductive to waste energy that should be spent fixing problems on exercising some vague idea of vengeance or retribution against our political or social enemies. I hope that it doesn't come to that. But judging from the actions of the other side, that may be all but inevitable. In which case, if we find ourselves across the barricade from those who once sought to destroy us, those noxious weeds I was just talking about, if they take root again and rise, we may find ourselves chin down and knuckles up. In which case, I'm going to refer you back once again to Teddy Roosevelt. Don't hit at all if it is honorably possible to avoid hitting, but never hit soft. If they push it over the line, if they cross that threshold, that first punch, damn sure make it count. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough now that I'm finally getting back to work. Updates on that in a minute. Certainly not held by one's employers. That one is for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They're coming from the heart. They're guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and choke you with fistful after latex glove-clad fistful of truth cock until you bleed from your eye sockets, beg for mercy, and finally acknowledge the truth that's been right in front of your face from day one. I am the Reverend. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Glad you made it. Don't know how to categorize exactly what mood I'm in, but it's pretty upbeat and affirmative. We're going to do the roll call, but right now I need everybody in for the drum roll. Where you at, people? Come on. Heart charging out of the starting gate as we always kick it off. The gut-stomping rock and roll band Red Desert from the smoldering and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week, I get a little bit older. Every week, you guys get to decide if I have gotten any wiser. Some weeks, I do better than others. We're going to see how it flows with this one. Going to kick it off, though, man. Let me roll it on back to the beginning. I believe Brother Dennis was the first one here, and he was very, very proud of himself. So we're going to roll it on through. Roll it on through the roll call. Here we go. Yeah, there's Brother Dennis, OG Reverence Ranger, and Prophet of Doom, going all the way back to the early 90s. In fact, maybe even 89. Refresh my memory. I'm old. I forget stuff. Good to see you here, Brother Dennis. And, of course, Brother Jake, man, out there in Pennsylvania, in the back of the Doom Cruiser with his off-grid setup. Man, I'm very, very impressed with everything you're doing out there, brother. And it's good that you took the time to make it on out here. Brother Roman, another one of my oldest and dearest friends. Good to see you, which means that your lovely bride, Miss Carrie, is going to be floating around here somewhere in the background. I'm sure we're going to find her. Keep on scrolling through. Deacon Mark in the house. So good the other week to see you and Eda, man. That was just the most wonderful thing. I guess you guys are out on the sacred porch, indulging in some adult sodas and enjoying some smokable consumables, and God love you for it, man. Happy to have you on board. Brother Jude, what do we got? Checking in early out here in the toy hauler, pushing the iron and working up a sweat. Well, good to have you on board, brother. And I hope that new gig is working out for you, man. We are long overdue for a long telephone conversation. I had intended to have one over the course of the past week, but some unusual things happened, and I'm going to catch everybody up to speed about that. But in any case, man, it's good to be here. Brother Bill, we missed you at Broadband, man. Me and Clem made it a point to put that little video together for you, man, just to let you know. But, brother, we love you. My brother in Christ, my brother in arms, my brother in every sense of the word. And it was beautiful going back to that park where it all came together. I'm gonna catch everybody up to speed on the past week or so, man. It's been pretty fantastic, man. It's been pretty fantastic. The OG center sister herself, the divine Miss M, the divine Miss Emmy on board. Happy to have you, sweetheart. And by the way, I see a lot of blessings coming your way as well. Catch me up to speed on the details, Mama, because I don't think I got a return message from you when we started to have that chat earlier. I may have been going through the airport or just gotten out or on the road or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but catch me up to speed with the details. And of course, George on board. God bless you all tonight. I hope you're having a blessed weekend. Brother, you see it right there in the tag. Heaven blessed and never stressed, brother. That is the way to live. And around here, we try to keep it above board like that. See who else we got, man. Scrolling. We see Brother Joel Allen Jackson, man. Happy to see you on from the Midwest. Do you live by the river? Do you live by the river? I wanted to include a Colonel Kurtz quote in the opener, but I didn't have time to actually track down one of the graphics. Would have been nice to use. I'm going to save it for another day. Brother Clem, speaking of, man, so good to see you at Broadbot, brother. And hopefully, moving forward, we're going to be doing a lot more of that, the way I'm shifting and getting everything in gear. Brother Sonny making it out. Oh, my goodness, man. Thank you so much for putting that together. Check your PayPal if you haven't already. But man, just to get down there surrounded by brothers in Christ and brothers in arms and like minds and kindred spirits, man, it was vitalizing to the soul. And I came back here to Nevada ready to rock, man, ready to just hit the ground rolling. And then a funny thing happened because God, in mysterious ways, I'll tell you all about that, man. It'll be fun. Hi, all from the Tar Heel State. Hope everyone is well. Wayne, man, appreciate you, brother. And I have been seeing you on my Twitter feed as well. My feed, X, Twitter, whatever. But I've been seeing you quite a bit over there, man. Happy to have you on board as always. And thank you again for the friendship and the support. We go all the way back to decades that people can't even remember. We graduated high school before some of these youngsters were born. I don't know quite how to feel about that, but I'm going to call it a win right now. Anyway, man, we're winding down the bumper music. Coming to the end of the track, once again, man, Red Desert. Gut stomping little rock and roll band, man. These guys have really been fantastic. And like everybody, man, I encourage you. I encourage you with this stuff every single week, man. Take care of the people that take care of us and make this program possible. And you know, for the people who kick down every week and take care of me, you guys know how much I appreciate it, and thank you very much for that. For other people who may want to do something just to give the program a boost, take care of the people who are taking care of the program. If you're in Spokane, buy something from Nordic Smoke Barbecue. Get on and download some music from Red Desert. Find them on Spotify or Bandcamp or any of the streaming services. I don't know much about streaming services, to be honest with you, but I'm sure you guys will know how to find them if you just take a look. But Red Desert has been cool enough to let us use that as bumper music now for 5 years. Can you believe it? 5 years we've been doing this. It just started out as ranting and raving is cheaper than therapy, and here we are, man, like 5 years later. But anyway, man, pick up a T-shirt or download some of their music, pick up some merch, something. Take care of the people that take care of the program. And speaking of, let me get that out of the way real quick. A couple of sponsor shout outs, of course. Brother Roman and his lovely wife Carrie and Roxy and Allie and the bevy of beautiful women who have been depicted in lovely watercolor work over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Roman has 2 books out, but he's really put that. The first of those, From Dork to Pimp Daddy, has largely been pulled. I think there may be a few more copies in circulation, but he's putting a big push on for Roman Freely. It's under Roman Riva. That is the name you will find it under on Amazon.com, and it is a collection of his watercolor work. Again, the erotic pinups and portraits people, they have beautiful watercolor work of beautiful naked women and testosterone-driven commentary over at opiumtales.com. That is a Reverend Bart trifecta. Get over there and show the man some love. Also, Nordic Smoke Barbecue, my Viking brothers. What, we got 4 now? Oh my goodness, I didn't get the memo. You got 4 books now. All right. Cool, man. Leave the info down there in the notes so they'll be able to Right. So you finally got the short fiction stuff done. Right. We talked about that a little bit last week, that he was going to be kicking off into some short fiction. So he's got the fiction novellas are running. Roman Reba on Amazon. You guys can find it right there. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on up there. Look, in all honesty, have not had a chance to read any of the short fiction yet. But if I know my bro, and I do and have since 1988, I know that if it is a creative endeavor that he has a stake in, that he's going to go all out, and it's going to be some phenomenal work. So check it out. It's Roman Reba on Amazon. Now I got to give a shout to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. There is no other except no substitutes. The only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Talking about my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the Viking longship, that is to say, the smoker trailer is sailing the asphalt seas in the Spokane, Washington area. They are gearing up for the spring season. There are going to be events out there. So if you're in Spokane or around Spokane, or you're going to be in Spokane or somewhere close to Spokane, get with me. I will hook you up with them. And if you're coming to visit me, a visit from Nordic Smoke is always going to get lined up. Brother Dennis can attest to that. He and his wonderful mother, by the way. And Mom, if you're watching, I love you. When you guys came through up there, Dennis can attest, man. We had a nice little chunk of Nordic Smoke brought out to the Bart Bunker specifically for the occasion, and I will indulge any of you guys in that. If you're coming up to see me, or if you're just coming through some good barbecue and hanging out with me is just a side or an afterthought, cool. I'm totally all right with that. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, only legit barbecue in the Northwest. Don't forget, Dusty is running the pit now. Casey has moved on and is a practicing attorney. He has passed the bar. He's going to be my attorney. God forbid anything come that direction, but Casey's my bro, man. Got him on retainer, and life is good. And when you're looking at someone with the kind of tenacity you want in an attorney, you could do a lot worse than a U.S. Marine Corps saw gunner who has done combat tours in the sandbox. Which brings me to his other side project right now, a book called Freaks of a Feather, published by Laytop Press out of Spokane, Washington. It is a combat memoir that started out as a suicide note, and that by itself should be all that I need to tell you about that. He's a phenomenally gifted writer. There is not one person over, which way am I pointing? Yeah, I got to make sure to line it up with because it's actually over here on the screen. There is not one person over here in the comments that has read that book that is going to have anything but rave reviews for it. It's incredible. He's a gifted writer, and he's a hell of a human being too, man, because I don't hang out with scrubs. And on the rare occasion I find myself compelled to spend any more than a token minute or two with scrubs, I vacate the area very quickly. If I embrace you, I embrace you, man. And again, when it comes to that, there's a very strict no scrub code. These guys are awesome people, everyone. And I think the same thing of pretty much everyone over here in the comments as well. The fact that you guys keep coming out Sunday after Sunday, man, I know y'all got better stuff to do. But you indulge me, man. You indulge me, and I really, really appreciate that. And I try to honor you guys by delivering a little something every week, hopefully something that's going to shift your perspective or whatever. Let me catch you up on what's going on since last I was here. I dipped down to Texas for the Bratva gathering. Brothers in Arms and Brothers in Christ that gather at Fort Honey Badger with Brother Sonny Pazikis. The original crew also involved Bill Wade and Clem and some of the other folks that you've seen here that have dropped in. Close-knit group of guys and people who just want to venture a little bit deeper into the psychological realm as well as the physical realm of training. And it was vitalizing for the soul, as I knew it would be. I had taken some time off of work specifically for that reason. They did not want to see me leave. They were like, "Hey, man, we can get an operator, but please, no longer than that 3 days. You can guarantee you're going to be back on Monday." Yes. Come back on Monday. Catch my flight Sunday. I'm coming back in. Get a good night's sleep. Driving up I'm usually the first one there at the job site. they pick us all up in vans down at the bottom of the hill, and normally I'm there probably a half hour early, and I just kind of kick and get a little catnap there in the front seat of the truck. They come by to get me. I jump in. I was like, "Hey, man!" They were like, "Hey, cool, man. Great to have you back, man." It was wild with all the drama and everything, with them flipping the crane. What? I thought they were jacking with me. I seriously thought they were jacking with me. I thought this has got to be some big elaborate prank, because my bro Ken, who is the top dog there with Brahma, very, he's got a great sense of humor. You know what I mean? And we've got that kind of connection. I just thought this has got to be some big elaborate prank, but lo and behold, it was not some big elaborate prank. They got me up to the top of the hill, and this scrub operator that the service that they went through sent over to run the crane in my absence managed to tip an 80-ton Grove over on its side. I'm not going to get into the details, like a whole lot of the details, because again, it's one of those things that they're still investigating. So we don't want to, color it for the sake of whatever. And I won't make any disparaging comments about the operator in question. Let's just say that his grasp of Newtonian physics was a bit lacking, particularly as regards center of gravity and momentum. But in any case, I got to the top of the hill and I found my beloved 80-ton Grove. This thing is a tank, man. How this crane is still running up until the moment that it tipped is absolutely beyond me. We have wrenched every drop of life out of this crane, and I was really, really. I was starting to bond. This is the second gig that I've used this crane on. I worked. I worked at Round Mountain at the gold mine down there, and I ran the crane. And again, it's just the thing is, it's an older crane. It's an older crane. It's lifted a lot of things. You know what I mean? You're gonna run into quirks. And Jude, in answer to your question, no, nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt, and that's about the only good thing that I can say about it. I can discuss things that are already established details, Jude, and anyone else who's ever run a crane or been around them. Established details, including the fact that at the time he had his right. Okay, no, I'm not going to get into that. The boom, he was traveling the crane. All right, he was traveling the crane forward on a slope that was roughly 4 degrees, right, centered up this way instead of going down and coming up. He was this way, and the boom was up at a 51-degree angle. I don't think I need to go any further than that for anyone who's been around cranes or might dabble in physics. Yeah, I don't need to go any further than that. The boom was up at a 51-degree angle, fully retracted, but up at a 51-degree angle on that slope with that narrow wheelbase. And it went over. Thank God nobody got hurt. So that was kind of a down. But here's the thing. There's this scripture that I keep coming back to. All things work for good to them that something love God. Yeah. This is the beauty of it. I was gutted, when I got to the top of the hill and I saw that. I was absolutely gutted. But let me tell you how cool Brahma was. And particularly my bro Ken. He said, "Listen, man, I will cover your gas to Spokane and back. Save your receipts. Go home, spend the week with the wife." Right? If it comes back any sooner than that, he said, just make sure your ringer is on, because when I get the new crane, I'm going to need you back right then. So please, just make sure that I am able to contact you. But I'll cover your gas there and back. Go home, spend a week with the wife, decompress, because I can tell, I had the vein coming out here, and you can tell it's about to blow. And So that's what happened. He said, take a week. And so I left, and I was able to surprise Miss Charlie. Um, Left out. This was Monday, right? And so I left out. I got into Spokane on Tuesday, and Wednesday got the call from Ken. Said be back Monday. Um, and this is where all of my crane operator buddies are going to get a big smile on their face, because what was I running before? 80-ton Grove. They said, we need you back Monday. We've got you a Tadano 1200 XL. I wish I had the sound effect right now for the parting of the clouds and the singing of the angelic choirs. Because yes, yep, there you go, bro. There you go. That is exactly what happened. Uh, and Jake, yeah, that's a, yeah, that's funny. If you're not flipping the crane, you're not trying hard enough. There you go. Yes, sir. So yeah, so tomorrow morning I'll be back on the job site regardless of anything else, and sitting in the cab of a nice, shiny, that classic blue and white, man. Every operator knows it. Gonna be up there in that classic blue and white Tadano 1200 XL, 120 ton. Very happy Bart. Very happy Bart. And the rest of this gig is going to be fantastic. Having said that, I'll probably be stretched out here a little bit longer, maybe into May, with regard to finishing the project, because there was some downtime and there's some things that you can't, some things you can do with other pieces of equipment. Flying 6,000 pound chunks of precast can be done with other equipment. Flying 40,000 pound chunks of precast concrete cannot be done with anything but that crane. So now we're back. So life is good. And that has been my week. And I was really looking forward to jumping back in to the sermon, but man, absolutely nothing going on in the world. So I was hoping you guys might have some ideas, stuff that we could talk about, because, when I'm looking at it, man, the world's looking pretty smooth right now. I can't speak with any degree of confidence about how it might be a week from now, but there are some things that are going on. Well, maybe I better check my bullet points, and we'll go ahead and jump on into that. One of the cool things about road gigs is when you travel, like when I worked in Twin Falls and I was traveling, once or twice a month to go back to the house and do stuff. It's a 10-hour drive from Winnemucca, Nevada to Spokane. It's a 10-hour drive. And I have my iPod, my vintage iPods. While we're here, let's just go. Oopsie. All right, we'll go ahead and have a look at some of these. Let me get readjusted here. Sorry about that. I mean to go knocking everything over, but iPods. You guys may or may not remember them, and I have several. I have this little mini that goes with me to the gym, like a third gen mini, and it doesn't hold a whole lot of stuff, but it'll hold enough for like workout playlists and things like that, which is cool. And then I have my two road dogs. This one is a 7th gen, and they pulled the guy that I met through eBay that does this online. He replaced the crappy battery that they come with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, and replaced the spinning hard drive with a 256 gig solid state hard drive, so I can drop it and bang on it, and it's not gonna mess up the integrity of the machine. And then I have this one, which is my big boy road dog. This has the same thing done, but this is the 5th generation iPod with the Wolfson chip in it. Better sound quality, and I had the same 3,000 milliamp hour battery put in here, and a 512 gig solid state hard drive. I've got months of stuff on this. In fact, it's I don't even think the hard drive is up to half capacity yet, and I have got months of music and college lectures and Jordan Peterson stuff and interviews and bootleg live sets from different bands and all kinds of things, all in what amounts to the size of a pack of cigarettes. I really, really love these iPods. Yes, I know it's ancient, just like me, but I really, really liked them. And one of the things that I had, when I'm on the longer road trips and I get to get out for a little bit, and I really enjoy about it, is having that stuff. I get to catch up. I get to listen to some old interviews, some college lectures, some things, get to expand my mental horizons a little bit. If I feel like some musical entertainment too. I was listening to a live gig that Tucker Carlson did with Charlie Kirk. And he used a term, and I'm going to give him full credit for this term because it's not one that uh, that I ever actually even heard before, even in a law enforcement perspective, and that is introductory radicalization events. They were speaking of it with regard to, in context, the initial thing that sends somebody down a rabbit hole. One of the reasons why the establishment is said, this was the context in which they were discussing it. One of the reasons why the establishment is so fired up about the JFK files and the MLK files and the Malcolm X files, and we'll be talking about Brother Malcolm a little bit more later in the program. One of the reasons why they're so upset about that is because, in spite of the fact that, look, is there anyone out there that doesn't just accept, right, at this point, that Oswald didn't act alone, right? Besides Robert Mungall, is there any thinking person on the planet that still believes that Oswald acted alone? No. I mean, clearly nobody believes that at this point, and no thinking person, at least for the past several years, ever would have believed that. Because the more that, and when I say several years, I'm sorry, I misspoke. For the past several decades, nobody would nobody would be around for that. Hey, J-Dub, check it out, man. I'm glad you made it, Mr. Wisdom. Is that Mr. Wisdom now? Is that what we're required to address you as? Will that be Joe or Mr. Wisdom, sir? You definitely earned it with some of the comments that you brought. One of the points that you brought up on that Ukraine thread earlier, about the treaty that they violated, that was something that a lot of people overlook. So not only can you find the place on a map, you're bringing up important historical points about it. So clearly, you have the right to an opinion. I digress. One of the reasons why they were so concerned about these old files being brought up is not because it's new information, right? It's not anything that anyone doesn't already know, but being reintroduced to it, or just straight up introduced to it for the first time, without any prior deep dives or anything like that, amounts to an introductory radicalization event. And I thought, wow, man, introductory radicalization event. Here's what it comes down to, man. One of the memes that you've seen in circulation. Who radicalized you, dude? Who radicalized you, bro? In fact, I'm going to see if I can find one of those one of those memes, just to illustrate how silly some of this stuff has gotten, because it is one of the things that the left consistently maintains is how batshit insane we are over on the right, right? Who radicalized you, bro? That our thoughts on things are so outlandish and not even tangentially connected to any sort of mainstream reality construct, that it had to have been something, and they found in introductory radicalization event, which is something that was generated by the Department of Justice and the FBI when they were investigating foreign terrorists. Like, how did they come to this ideology? Like, what was it that set them in that direction? What was it that, and they started talking about it in terms of that context, as if all of us out here were salivating Pavlovian dogs, just waiting for the right code word or event or casus belli to snap, waiting for that phone call. Raymond, why don't we pass the time by playing some solitaire? Do you see the Red Queen, Raymond? You guys that dig older versions of newer movies, you guys appreciate that. Raymond Shaw is the kindest, sweetest, most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. In any case, that is how they see us. And as such, there had to have been some event that got us there. Let me tell you first about how the FBI looks at it with regard to foreign terrorists and even domestic terrorists. Radicalization, the way that they look at it, is a four-stage process. The first of the four is pre-radical, where people start to identify with or relate to or outright join an organization. They become part of, say in North Idaho, they get, back in the day, they get with Butler's Compound and those guys, and they start, getting that little hand twitch thing. And they go to the meetings, but they don't really, they're not like serious. And then it gets to stage two where they self-identify, where if you ask them what they're about, they will tell you, I am a white nationalist. I am this, I am that, whatever it is. Then comes phase three, which is the longest phase, and that is indoctrination. That's where they get deep dive and steeped in the literature of the cause and the deeper politics and the practical politics behind it. They start seeing who the figures are in the movement, people that they see who have a place of prominence within the movement that they want to emulate. And this is generally the longest part of the process. And then what it ends in is terrorism. Now, that is the radicalization event as it applies to, right? Let's go with this. Wait, what? Wait, what? We're not? I've been gaslighting myself for years. I swear it looks like the driver fired that final shot. Yeah, I get it. These are the kind of things. And I'm gonna tap everybody here. I'm gonna tap everybody over here in the comments in just a second. Vargas, what do you got for me, brother? I love the notion of being called radicalized by someone on the side that prioritizes such concepts as Predator 2 being racist and fart rape. Yeah. Or people that will you slice the genitals off a perfectly healthy 13-year-old boy and call it affirmative health care. These are the guys that consider us radical. The ones who still believe mainstream media that considering us radical. The same judiciary that did nothing while flights brought literally over 300,000 illegal immigrants who would not have been able to cross the border on land. Over 300,000 of them were flown in by the Biden administration, and that judiciary just completely looked the other way. But we got rid of one plane load of scumbag rapists and murderers, members of Tren de Aragua, and suddenly there's a constitutional crisis, and the judiciary doesn't like having their check and balance overwhelmed like that. Yeah, that sort of thing, being referred to as radicals. In any case, man, I'm kind of get I had a feeling this was going to set some folks off. That's why I led with it. I'm done apologizing for doing nothing wrong. Wait, I never did apologize, and that is correct. That is correct, George. You in fact never did apologize. You were one of the rare folks that never even offered up a token apology. And as if on cue, Tom Hollyby shows up, another one of those people who never even offered up a token apology. Let me see if we can get back around here. But let's get back to Bezmenov. We'll go back over and reread this here. About the highest art of warfare, not to fight at all, to subvert anything of value in the country. This is the radicalizing people was one of the things. Excuse me. Liquid enthusiasm there. Radicalizing people was part of the element there. That was they were trying to rationalize them to, hardcore communism by basically selling them on softcore socialism, and that continues to work to this day. They have radicalizing events, and they capitalize on crises and events that happen on their own that and make them the initial event. But radicalization, in the truest sense of the word, generally there's some event, and I'm going to see if I can get you guys to share first. I identify as every marginalized and persecuted group ever to exist. Final boss, give me the presidency. Yeah, no mention of Biden giving the Supreme Court student debt forgiveness, and that was another thing that I was going to bring up, Bill. I found myself engaged in a very tense discussion with someone very, very close to me, along that line, who posted on Facebook about the constitutional overreach of, the check and balances, and of course it was the usual, pearl clutching, flustered, put me near the fainting couch of, he's a dictator, he's Hitler, and we're all going to be wearing red dresses, and it's going to be Gilead, and this is how it starts, and he's showing his true colors, and the judiciary can't check him. And I'm just like, where was. Okay, if you're really concerned, I would prefer the honesty of I hate Trump. Okay, say that. Let's begin and end with that. I hate Trump. Anything he does is bad. Anything he does is wrong, and I will find some reason to object to it. There will always be some way, say that, okay? Because at least then we're talking honestly. Don't say that it is about the specific action, the rightness or wrongness of it, okay? Because it's not. It's not. Don't say that and certainly don't say that it's about the principle, particularly when you spent the previous 4 years saying nothing about any of the constitutional overreaches. The suspension of evictions, right? The Supreme Court told him on 3 separate occasions that he was not allowed to extend the ban on evictions. 3 separate times. He ignored them and bragged about it, that he's doing it because he's taking care of people in need. All right? But don't tell me it's about the principle. Okay? You can say it's about the action. Well, yeah, but he was doing it for the good of people. Lie, first off. But don't come at me now like it's about the principle. We're either respecting the judiciary check and balance or we are not. 3 separate times on the eviction thing. And at least 3. Somebody fact check me on this. Which one? The student loan forgiveness, right? At least 3 times the Supreme Court told him. Bill, wasn't it at least? Fact check me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was at least 3 times the Supreme Court told him that he could not forgive. He didn't have the authority to forgive student loans, and he went ahead and did it anyway. No, not this time, Joe. No, no. I said someone close to me. I said just someone that's currently close to me, not someone who I was close to once upon a time and now just won't go away. No, someone actually much closer. But I'm not going to indulge any more guesses of that here in listening. Better late than never. We'll catch up on the replay. Stone, I'm just glad you're here, bro. There's no requirement, man. You guys aren't required to come out. I'm just thrilled to death when you all do, man. It's great. Yep, 3 times. Yes, 3 times. That's what I thought. 3 times. So don't tell me it's about the principle, okay? It's not. Now you could tell me then that it's about the action. Well, Joe Biden did it because he was trying to help people who couldn't afford this, or Joe Biden did it because he was trying to help people get an education, and Trump did it because he's a racist meanie face. Okay, make that case then. Make that case, but don't tell me it's about the principle, please. That's going to get into bullet point number 2, the weird hills that leftists are willing to die on. Right. And yes, he told the Supreme Court that. He told the Supreme Court he didn't care, and the people in Congress cheered. He literally did. They literally cheered. That was the middle of the State of the Union address. So don't tell me you're suddenly, oh, it's the principle of not respecting a judicial decision. Stop. Just stop. Say, I hate Trump and be done with it. Okay? Just say it. Be done with it. That's it. Um, God, where the hell was I going with that? Initial radicalization, introductory radicalization events. So you guys, pretty much everybody over here in the comments, is pretty much red pilled, or at least right leaning libertarian late party. When made it, hey man, brother, I'm here, and I'm here, and I'm glad you're here and showing up late, dude. You're here. It's great. By the way, I showed the wife that the wife that blade that you gifted me, and yeah, we're all very very impressed, very very impressed with that. In fact, no, I'm not gonna high side on people like that, but thank you again. You honored me with that. All of you here who are conservative or right leaning libertarian, what was the event, particularly? I mean, and if you have been all your life, okay, fine. But if you once upon a time were not, or if you once upon a time were less conservative, what was the event that set you off on a different trail? Be thinking about that. Just kind of discuss it in the comments over here. I can tell you what mine was, and I've written a whole Substack. And by the way, if you haven't been to my Substack, let me see. It's right. Let me post that up for you. ReverendBart@Substack.com. I have an entire Substack devoted to that, or an entire Substack column devoted to that particular thing. How I got, what was my introductory radicalization event. Okay. For me, it was Waco. For me, it was Waco, Texas. And again, you should go read that Substack. I won't belabor it here. Short version, basically, I was a stoner kid, and I wasn't quite, I was past my leftist phase. My teen years, my late teen years bleeding into 20, maybe, were spent running with a hardcore stiff arm salute crowd. I broke with that crowd under some very unpleasant circumstances, and it totally pivoted me the other direction. And I went like hardcore lefty for a while. And what brought me back around, or what set me off into what would be considered a radical position by mainstream standards, was the Waco incident. I was just a stoner kid at that point. I was in my early 20s, and it was just me and Johnny Bodman, and we were doing bong hits, and we heard that a bunch of Jesus freaks were shooting it out with a bunch of federal agents up near Waco. How far is Waco? 2.5 hour drive. Cool, let's get in the van. And we drove, man. We drove up there. Read the Substack if you want to know what else. But that was the event that set me off. Everybody's got one. Waco still hurts me. Let me see here. The 94 gun ban, right? Okay, 94 gun ban. Cool. Once on the left, truth be told. Joe, man, don't be ashamed of that, bro. We were all, well, not everybody, but a lot of us were there once upon a time. Jimmy Carter and the Iranian hostages. Bill, you're dating yourself with that. But yeah, that is, I could definitely see that. Joel, for me, it was Waco. Yes, absolutely. And I think, Joel, you and I have had the discussion, so you don't need to read the Substack, because we've had that talk face to face. Joe, the Occupy Wall Street movement got co-opted and hijacked. I saw that a mile away. Right. Where they did, because originally, pushing back against the big banks and stuff, who wouldn't be behind that? But they did get co-opted and hijacked, and that was definitely worth being the IRE. That everyone around me suddenly started abandoning the values we all shared, went batshit crazy in a weird culture war. Yes, Joel, Waco still hurts me to this day. Bill, broke for the longest. I did an annual pilgrimage when I lived down in Houston. I did an annual pilgrimage up there to go look at the memorial. And if you haven't been, Bill, if you ever happen to be drifting through that way, you should drive. They've rebuilt the church, and they have a makeshift memorial there now. It's small. It's small, it's humble, and it's heavy, man. It's heavy. The last time that I was there, they were excavating. That tunnel network that they had underneath there is like way more extensive than anybody had previously supposed, and they were doing some excavation on it, and you can actually walk up over the panic room, what amounted to a panic room, where they found most of the kids. Because they all ran, the women and the kids all ran back into the panic room when the feds started the fire. All the kids and the women, they ran back into the panic room, and they were basically baked alive. It's horrible, but yeah, that was my initial one. Brother Ryan, late but here. No, I did not see that. I did not see that, but send me a link and I'll definitely give that a look. Oh man, you've got to be kidding me. Hang on. No. Um, Send me a link, Ryan, please. Send me a link. Um, Literally co-opted and hijacked. Blah, 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 blah. Pretty right leaning all my life. Yeah, Emmy, I remember that about you for sure. Um, Ryan, I'm glad you made it out. You didn't miss a whole lot. Just you know, no, really, you didn't miss a whole lot. Opium, we were literally co-opted and hijacked. I had places on the west and east coast. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Just in time to rendezvous with Ronald going to film. Uh, Look who decided to join us. Hello, Miss Charlie. Um, so we all had that introductory radicalization event. There we go. Everybody say hello. Yes, they murder children. They do, but governments murder children. it's it's kind of their stock and trade. Um, we've all got an introductory radicalization event, but this premise of who radicalized you. Let's get let's get into that just as something worth addressing. Who's been asked that before? Maybe not in so many words, but something like, "Dude, what set you off, man? Like, why are you all like down this rabbit hole, bro?" Um, we've all had it. We've all had it. There's been some point in the discussion where, because again, you have to think the left has been steadily winning the culture war for decades. Uh, we weren't actually in the minority numerically. Again, that silent majority thing had a yeah, bro. I saw the video, man. That was fantastic. Put on a Cellar 22 cricket, right on, man. No, I saw he was out there riding, man. It looked like he was having absolutely a blast. Um, Liberal Tesla drivers being radicalized towards the right in droves. Yeah, bro. Yeah, and that's actually where I'm headed with it, Dennis. It's almost like we've done this before. All of us have had that moment. Every single one of us have had that moment. Something pushed us over the line where you looked and you had to re-examine things in a completely different light. Maybe it was an act of personal trauma that happened to you. Maybe it was a political phenomenon. Maybe it was a political event or a historical event. Ruby Ridge, Waco for a lot of people, Occupy Wall Street for some people, the battle in Seattle. If you guys remember that, the World Trade Organization riots. For some people it was that. For some people it was seeing the way things are getting handled. But getting back to who radicalized you, first of all, and I don't want to get into the tit for tat about, well, what does radical really mean anyway, bro? I mean, like, like one man's radical, like one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter, bro. Like, I don't want to do a bong rip and go down that hole, but radicalization, again, when they were winning, they got to define what is radical. Radical for them is basically everything that is in line with Western civilization and traditional cultural values, right? Now, there are degrees of radicalization, right? You know, one One man may say, "Hey, man, I'm really not down." One man may start off saying, "Well, I'm down with the L's, the G's, and the B's." But then like the T's and the Q's and all these pluses and rest of the alphabet, not really. Is he radical or is he being de-radicalized? That's semantic arguments. That's what I'm trying to avoid here. What I'm trying to establish is what is it that changed the course for you? You understand? For me, this is a story that I like to share because it's funny and it's true. Everybody knows. Yes. Oh my God. Thank you. Which Way, Western Man and Imperium. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That one will rock you. That one will rock you. And that is not light or easy reading. If you guys want to, yeah, but Francis Parker Yockey, bro, don't even, man, wow. But some would consider that I have been radicalized further. My political beliefs have always been way outside the mainstream. No matter which side they fell on, my political beliefs have always been been way outside of the mainstream. But it's the intensity and depth of the change, I think, that rocked everybody. The story that I like to tell because it's funny and it's true is my sexual depravity back in the day was the stuff of legend between the party bag and the meat hook and the things that are just nailed to the wall at the old warehouse space for no easily discernible reason and all this stuff. My drug use back in the day, stuff of legend, man. Incidents of violence, and and Ryan and I can speak to that because we shared several of those. Uh, all of this stuff, man, it was well known and it was well documented and it needed neither apology nor defense. And yet, people just took it as part of the story. People just took it as part of the story. And yet, when I start quoting scripture, suddenly people have a health concern. Bro, are you okay, man? Do we need to, should there be like an intervention? Should there be like an intervention, bro? Man, I'm concerned about you, man. I'm concerned about you. Oh, wow. So me doing a rail of meth off an erect tranny hooker's penis, right? That's no harm, no foul. But now that I'm quoting scripture, there are concerns about my well being. Interesting, interesting where the line is drawn. I say all that to say this: what radicalizes a person isn't what we're really asking. What inside them changes to re-examine where their life has been and decide that this is no longer functional for me. Joel, I can personally document. Yes, Joel. As a matter of fact, you can. Did we get 59 South, bro? And I'll just leave it there. Something inside a person changes, right? Some people it requires bottoming out. I wasn't anywhere near the bottom when I came back to the faith. I wasn't anywhere near the bottom by any normal measure. I was doing fine, man. I was doing fine. Had a good job, making really, really decent money, best money I'd made in my life up until that point. Beautiful wife, right? What changed? Something hit me hard on a deeply spiritual level. So, what is it that hits people hard now? Or is it a slow drift? Because when I came back to the faith, what looked like an instant epiphany, that epiphany was the product of a long and gradual process. That was the moment that brought me home. I'm reminded of this because while I was down there for Bratva, right, I went by and I revisited. We went back out to but you guys that saw my testimony when I delivered that about coming back to the faith. You guys remember the public park that we went to and all of that. I went to Tyler and I found that park. I found that park where it all came together, where it all happened. and there were a group of Mexican folks that were out there that were having what was clearly a religious service. And I went up to the pastor after he was done. He had a closing prayer, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, man, this is what a couple of years ago, right over there at that picnic table, and give him the thing." And he was blown away, man. He was absolutely blown away. And he called his congregation kind of back together. He said, "Man, can I pray with you?" I said, "Bro, I would like that very much." And we all prayed together, and it was a beautiful moment. And then he had a message for me, and that message was for me. I will just say that God really, really touched me again in that moment, right? But he had something specifically for me that could not have come from anywhere else. I'm way off the beaten path here. I don't care. What looks to be an instantaneous pivot, what looks to be radicalization, is neither an instant change nor is it radicalization. It is the culmination of a series of events that brings you to that epiphany. And it is not radicalization, it is evolution in more cases than not. Culturally, where have we been? The left has dominated. They've dominated the zeitgeist. They've dominated the discussion. They've dominated every facet of cultural influence in the country, from academia to Hollywood to television and radio to education to name it, man. They owned it all. They controlled the stimulus. So by default, they controlled the response. And they got to make the calls, and they got to define it all. That's it's almost like exactly where I was going, Ryan. Thank you for that. Is it radicalization or an awakening? Exactly. It's an awakening as part of that evolution, man. That's exactly where I'm going with that, Ryan. It's exactly. You're not being radicalized. You are growing. You are processing new information as it comes in. And some people will never be able to get over that hurdle. They'll never be able to process that. Whether it's their pride or whether it is the fear of losing their support network, of losing friends, of losing family, of losing touch with what, it may be a rut that they're in, but by God, it is their rut and they spent a long time digging it, and we're not going to jump out of this. So the introductory radicalization event in this sense isn't a radicalization event at all. It's merely your first, and Ryan, this perfect word, it's merely your first awakening. Do you understand? Everybody tracking? It is merely your first awakening. And if it is genuine, particularly for those of you in the faith, but even leaving that aside for a moment, if it is genuine, it will be the first in many awakenings that are going to come your way. They paint it as radicalization. Why? Because they have to characterize it negatively. They work with the fear to keep people from diving any deeper. That's why they push so hard to reform. That's why you always know when I hear someone say, this is a classic, and I know all of you out here have heard this from someone, some point, somewhere. Jordan Peterson is a dumb person's idea of a smart person. You all heard it. I know two things instantly about that person. One, that they are probably not a smart person, but more to the point, I know that they have never read a damn thing that the man's ever written. I know that in all likelihood, they may have, but probably not, may have seen one or two clips. And in all likelihood, they saw those video clips on leftist networks where he was quoted out of context. People that bag on it all the time. J-Dub, Joe, since you mentioned that, Mr. Wisdom, is it Mr. Wisdom? Or are we going with Joe or Mr. Wisdom? Anyway, because you mentioned the Honorable Mr. Thauburn. And by the way, Brian, hey, man, I just saw you jump in, buddy. Just saw you jump in. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Since you mentioned Mr. Thauburn, you know, that's another one, man. They'll slag on someone and you know instantly. They start bagging on Rogan. I know just from context clues and listening to what they're saying, they have never sat through an entire Joe Rogan interview in their entire life. Not once. I saw this in the wake of Rush Limbaugh's death. The vile stuff that these people were wishing on it. And I thought to myself, look, man, I didn't agree with Rush Limbaugh on everything. In fact, I vehemently disagreed with him on some things. But the man revolutionized talk radio. You can't take that away from him. Not only did he revolutionize talk radio, but he made it the tool that was largely the pivot point for the conservative movement in America. He is, in that sense, just as consequential to American conservatives as William F. Buckley. Just as consequential to American conservatives as Pat Buchanan. And I'm going to go way out on a limb here, just as consequential to the American conservative movement as Ronald Reagan, which would suit Mr. Limbaugh well, seeing that Reagan was his hero. The vile filth I saw these people spewing about this man, and I knew that not one of them had ever listened to a full hour of his program. He ran 3 hours a day. I know this because I was a route driver for a pharmaceutical company in East Texas. And way out there, the only thing that we could get was the AM stations. And the AM stations were conservative talk radio. And that is how I was introduced to Rush Limbaugh in the early 1990s. And I came to really, really like the man. Really like him a lot. I didn't come on here to praise Limbaugh or any of these people in particular. I'm saying that, thank you, Ryan, Art Bell. There's another one. Thank you. Thank you. For sure, man. Yeah, they let me drive with pharmaceuticals. Long story, Dennis. Long story. Limbaugh opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. I had already had my introductory radicalization moments, by their definition, with Waco. That had already took the scales off the eyes. All of these things were further awakenings, which is not to say that I outsourced my thinking to the man. It's just stuff I vehemently disagreed with him on. Then getting introduced to Art Bell at night, right? Every single one of these people along the process, that is why they are so terrified, because they know that once people start leaning in a conservative direction, there's no turning them back from that. None. Their ideas fail. In an open marketplace of ideas, theirs fail consistently. I'm not saying that because that happens to be my preference. I'm saying it because it's an established fact. Every platform, if left alone and content is not moderated, will ultimately wind up leaning conservative. Who's the guy that used to run Twitter before Elon bought it? Why does his name always escape me? Tinfoil tent guy. Because he literally slept in a tinfoil tent. I'm not even making that up. But him and Vijaya. Him and Vagina. They kept things under control because it was the only way that Jack Dorsey. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. When Dorsey and Vagina were running the show over at Twitter, there was a reason beyond the involvement with the federal government. The federal government was putting, but they were all too happy to accommodate that censorship because that was their position. When something is unmoderated, it will always wind up drifting conservative. Always. Particularly in this day and age where if you want to talk about true radicals, it doesn't get much more radical than the position that the left has taken on a lot of things, which is going to bring me to bullet point number 2, fairly early in the program. It's not a matter of right and Roman, and I know that you know this. I know that you know this. Can I go public? I'll let you decide whether you want to tell them. The hills that these people are choosing to die on are nothing less than insane. They have lost mainstream Democrats. Isn't it odd that cool, Roman. I'm glad that I can say that. Roman knows because Roman worked for Twitter. Roman worked for Twitter back in the day when Dorsey and Vagina were still running the show. I was privy to a number of things that were going on back then with regard to all the changes that were taking place when they started shifting around personnel in the pre-Elon days when things were falling apart and they were working directly and rewriting code at someone's behest, which was unknown to them at the time, but it turned out to be the federal government, all of these things that were going on. The places where the hills that the left is choosing to die on are just batshit insane by any measure. So, of course, they're losing people. Don't you think it's odd that the Kennedy family, that whole family has a legacy in the Democratic Party? And RFK couldn't find a home with Democrats. That's how far gone these people are. RFK said, I'm out of here. Tulsi Gabbard. My Tulsi. Tulsi Gabbard, in her freshman year in Congress, got picked to be the head of the DNC. She got picked to be the head of the Democratic National Committee. She was going to be the next big thing in the Democratic Party. But she had the audacity to break with the orthodoxy, and she got outed, and she no longer had a place there. So now she's a Republican. Elon Musk was the darling of the left. They adored him. I think it's Matt Orfalea who's got a compendium on YouTube that you can find about all these people like the hags from The View and the MSNBC crowd and that Mad Owl fella and all these other people singing Elon's praises. He is a genius. He's changing the world. He doesn't get enough respect. Blah, 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 blah. Until he went, I think you guys might be going a little bit too far. Immediately, they turned on him. We've had the discussion about the difference between the way fundamentalist religions treat their infidels versus how they treat their apostates. Once he became an apostate, he no longer had a home in the Democratic Party. And where is he now? And boy, they have pivoted hard on Elon. That's going to be bullet point number 3 that we're going to be getting into. They have pivoted hard on Elon. One of the things that shifted the election that they finally noticed, that the left finally noticed this year, they no longer control the narrative because the legacy media has lied themselves into irrelevance. No one is going to sit there and be lied to beyond a certain threshold. And the ones that remain beyond that threshold are unsavable. Anyone who is still on for NPR and MSNBC at this point, let him go. Let him go. Nothing is going to pivot them off of that. MSNBC has been caught in lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. NPR has been caught in lie after lie after lie after lie after lie, only they're being subsidized by the American taxpayer dollar. At your expense, you're literally paying them to lie to you. They've been wrong on literally everything. What's their defense? No, right. Or better yet, yeah, but Fox. Did I advocate for Fox? If you're still watching Fox, you're a hell of a lot less conservative than you probably think you are. But they have grandstanded and lied themselves into irrelevance as well. The Democrats finally noticed. They finally noticed that Trump's biggest bumps were when he did the internet interview with Elon Musk and the podcast with Andrew Schultz, and then followed that with the podcast with Joe Rogan. Ryan, who am I leaving out? I know he hit all the big ones. Who am I leaving out? He hit Schultz, he hit Rogan. There's another 2 or 3 that I'm leaving out. And they went, wow, this Rogan guy, man, he's got a lot of reach. We need a Joe Rogan for the left. That would probably be helpful. It would really, really be helpful. Yeah, Theo Vaughn, thank you. It would be helpful. Wouldn't it be great if there was a Joe Rogan for the left? Only there was. And his name was, wait for it, Joe freaking Rogan. But because he wouldn't get in line with the orthodoxy, because he continued to interview anyone, to let anyone speak about anything at any time, and no topic was off limits, and actually give them a voice to express themselves, he was outcast. He became an apostate, and now he is no longer with the left. For lack of a better word, he's a Trumper now. Who put him there? What was his introductory radicalization event? Who radicalized you, bro? Generally, when that question is being directed at me, I can point right back at the person who's asking it. Who radicalized you, bro? You did, man. You did. But it's happening at a cultural level now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they totally lied on Rogan. But what else? What else is where you got Russell Brand? And I'm glad you brought Russell. I'm glad you brought up Russell Brand, Bill. I'm glad, because his journey. There's another apostate. He came to Christ, man. That is the worst kind of apostate. That is the most irredeemable kind of apostate to the left. Not only did he stop, he was their poster child, man. Sexual depravity that actually made me a little uncomfortable. He was the freaking poster child. Drugs, self-indulgence, narcissism. He loved them until he went, wow, this isn't working for me. Something's wrong. I need to take a different direction in my life. That's why I feel such a bond with Russell Brand, man. What I was just saying, all the depraved stuff that I was into, the drugs, the sex, the violence, all of it. Not one of my secular friends ever popped up and went, bro, really, man? But the minute I start quoting scripture, boy, Yeah, you did, bro. Yeah, you did. I remember that shot. That was a big old fat shot, dude. Whew. Peruvian flake. I remember the night. Got a whole Substack about that too. You guys want to go check it out. Here's the larger point. It's not a matter of being radicalized. It's a matter of, again, like what Ryan and I were both talking about earlier. It's not a moment. It's not an event. It's a process. And it's not radicalization. It is an evolution. It is an awakening. And Ryan, your choice of words on that, I picked evolution. I think awakening is much better suited. So thank you for that. It is an awakening, man. For me, it all hit really, really sudden. I had already rooted a whole lot of stuff out of my life before the moment that brought me to Christ. But the whole process of political swing, that's been an evolution. Who radicalized you, bro? You did. If you guys look back at my stuff I was a Ron Paul guy, 2012. I was a Ron Paul guy, hard Ron Paul guy, 2012. I hated sides. I hated teams. Hated it. But in 2016, something happened. I sat the election out. I hated Hillary with the burning fire of 1,000 suns, but I wasn't sold on Trump. And in fact, I believed a lot of the stuff that they were saying about the man. Believed it outright. Didn't even bother digging or thinking things through rationally. But I believed it. I couldn't vote for him, but I was damn glad he won. No, I wasn't even glad that he won. I was glad that Hillary lost. But I watched what happened from 2016 on. Who radicalized you, bro? Y'all did. Y'all did. I found myself being put in a position of having to defend Donald Trump, who at the time I was not a big fan of. Why are you guys making me defend this man? I was so pissed at them for making me defend him because the things that they said about the man got more and more irrational, more and more unhinged, and more completely untethered from reality. And then I watched the results of his policies, and they were fantastic. I thought you guys said he was going to crash the economy. I thought you guys said he was going to be putting gay people in boxcars. Instead, he has the first openly gay cabinet member in the history of the United States. I thought he said he was going to be putting gay people in boxcars. Instead, he goes before the UN to have punitive measures against homosexuality outlawed internationally. He did a speech appealing to that. That in these Muslim countries where they actually do oppress homosexuals, not over here where you don't get your first choice of baker for your wedding cake. Oh, I'm so oppressed. Over there where they throw you off a building or sodomize you with a sword or slice off your head. He appealed before the United Nations to have criminally punitive measures against homosexuality outlawed internationally. What the hell? What? But wait, no, he hated gay people. Yeah, but he hates Jews, right? Moves the embassy to Jerusalem. What? Now, the flip side of that is some of the Stormfront crowd are uncomfortable with him being too cozy with Zionist Jews. And you can definitely make a case for that. But the one thing you can't say is that the man is an anti-Semite. Particularly when it's coming from the mouth of the same college kids that are screaming from the river to the sea. Spare me, Sparky. Not working out. Pat Buchanan was my guy. Yeah, I feel it, brother. I feel it. Starting to look at things through a more spiritual eye, and less of a secular one. Nailed it, Brian. Absolutely. Will not share the faith but still be a part of the movement due to good morals and character, or does faith exclude us due to indifference? Faith doesn't exclude you. Faith doesn't exclude you. Religion might. as long as we're drawing lines. Religion might, faith doesn't. I don't need for you to believe in Christ. I don't need for you to walk with Christ. You're walking by my side and you are acting in a virtuous manner. I don't need for you to believe in Christ. I will appeal to you. Say, look, man, here is why I walk with the carpenter. But brother, you are my brother. Faith doesn't exclude you. Religion does. You feel me? I know every one of y'all out here, all of my friends of faith over here in the comments, I know all of y'all felt that. Faith does not exclude. Religion does. That's as far as we're going on that one right now. But long and short of it is this. Who radicalized you, bro? Y'all did. You've heard of the shifting of the Overton window? In 2016, they shifted the Overton window so hard that it nearly shattered. And by 2020, they put a brick through it. I'm still basically the same guy. But the lunacy has gotten completely out of hand. And it has not been a radicalization. It has been an awakening, and it has not been an event. It has been a process. A process of steady, what the hell? Bro, you got to be kidding me. Dude, get away from me with that. Bro, we're done. So if they need to look at what's, and I am but one person. I am the microcosm. Look at the macrocosm culturally, everywhere. That's why they're terrified. 81% of the counties in the United States of America, 81% of the counties in the United States of America shifted from blue to red this last election. He won all of the swing states, won the Electoral College and the popular vote. He won larger percentages of the Black and Hispanic vote than any Republican had for the previous 40 years. Are they all neo-Nazis? Are they all too stupid to know better? All of your reasons up until this point have failed. The hills that you keep choosing to die on, become more and more detached from anything approximating what a middle-of-the-road American believes. 2 examples that'll help me just slide in with the bullet points right here. Bullet point 2 about the hills that y'all are willing to die on. We can get back to what I talked about earlier about whether you're making the Amish turned out to vote. The electoral was talking about earlier. You can discuss the principle of what happened, which, first of all, I'm calling bullshit. Where was the outrage? Where was the outrage when Biden pissed all over the judiciary? It was federal judges, not just federal judges, but the Supreme Court that told Biden, you can't extend the ban on evictions. It was the Supreme Court that told him, you can't cancel student debt. And he went ahead and did it anyway, more than 3 times. So where was this outrage if it's truly about the principle of checks and balances? It's not. Say you hate Trump and be done. Stop. And then realize that the hill that you're choosing to die on keeps getting more and more bizarre. You don't have the power of the purse, so you can't cut off the funding for USAID. First of all, incorrect. USAID was correct. Was instituted by executive order and can be yoinked right back out by another. So the power of the purse doesn't apply to Congress in this case. But let's look at the hill you've chosen to die on here. Spending millions of dollars, spending millions of dollars for diversity awareness programs in Afghanistan. Let alone the medical experiments. I love the fact check to the fact check about the trans mice thing and the trans monkeys thing and all the other stuff. We are supporting universities in foreign countries. We are supporting DEI awareness in Burma and spending millions of dollars to do so. And then you actually look and start tracing this money, and it's all getting filtered to what? NGOs. We could do a whole another sermon on NGOs and the way that these things are basically money laundering operations. And where does that money ultimately winding up? Right back in the pockets of Democratic donors. Leaving all of that aside, this is what you're going to get behind? That's the hill you're willing to die on? Damn it, we are going to spend millions of dollars on learning how to transition mice. Really? You're cool with that? The case in question where he supposedly overreached. Those are gangbangers, rapists, and murderers. Members of Tren de Aragua, which is at least as violent, if not more, than MS-13. And the hill you want to die on, again, don't tell me it's about principle, because it's not. You had no outrage when Biden pissed all over the federal judiciary. You're mad because it's Trump. But where does that put you? Where does that put you standing as far as the rest of the American people that are looking at you? The hill that you're choosing to die on is you turn that plane around right this minute and bring those rapists and murderers back here. They belong in America. Are you out of your frippin' mind? Who radicalized you, bro? You did. Feel how you want about dysmorphia and dysphoria and all of the other things. Yeah, thank you. No, promoting atheism in Nepal. True story. Look it up. That's the hill you're willing to die on. We're trying to make atheists out of the Nepalese, and we're spending millions of your dollars to do it. Feel how you want about dysmorphia and dysphoria and gender issues across the board. The hill that you're choosing to die on is. Are you ready? The hill that you're choosing to die on is little Bobby thinks he's a girl. Little Bobby is a minor. I'm not going to reach too deep and go pre-adolescent, even though that's what's in their policy play. But let's make him 13, okay? Little Bobby is a teenager. He's 13 years old, and he believes in his heart of hearts, I mean, really, really believes that he's a girl. And the hill that you want to die on is, as has been codified into law in 7 states, that he can be taken from his parents, have his penis removed, and his parents don't have to consent. They don't even have to be notified. In my home state of Washington, if his parents refuse to support his decision, that is legal grounds to pull him out of the house and have him transitioned. And that is the hill that you're choosing to die on? Dude, that never happens. That's such an extreme example, and it never happens, except for like the hundreds of times a year that it does. But it's saving lives. I mean, except for the fact of the mountain of studies that show that it actually makes the outcomes worse, but we don't really know. But you don't have to slice it off. You can just put them on hormone blockers. You can put them on puberty blocking hormones, which are 100% reversible, except they're not. Even the top level people in the trans movement are finally conceding that. What we could have told you, not being doctors years ago, that if you give people massive doses of cross sex hormones, that's not going to be a reversible thing. When you give a little girl testosterone, there's a little button at the top of her genitalia that winds up looking like a thumb, and you can't go back to making it look like not a thumb again. I'm not a doctor, but I could have told you that. That is the hill that you're choosing to die on. We want elective abortions all the way up to the moment of birth. There's another one. Oh, but that never happens. Then why have you codified it into law? In how many states? Roman, you fact checked this for me the other week. How many states has that been codified into law? I want to say at least 14 states up till the moment of birth. When the infant, when the baby is crowning, you can put an ice pick through its head. And technically, it's still affirmative health care. That is the hill that you're choosing to die on. Not even Europe does that anymore. Well, let's not make it totally crazy. How about protests? The hill that you're choosing to die on, Democrats. Remember how long I said it took me? I started with Waco back in 1993. I came to the cross 30 years later. These are the hills that you've chosen to die on for the past how many years? Ooh, 20 or 30 years. And you ask the American electorate who radicalized you? 20 or 30 years it's taken for you to get from there to here. 20 or 30 years it's taken you to get from gay people just want to be left alone. Totally cool. No problem. Okay, well, we just want to get married. Totally cool. No problem. Well, we just want to have our lives respected in the same way. Totally cool. No problem. And at some point on the spectrum, somehow we wound up with dudes in dresses with bouncing dongs dancing around in front of kids. And for us to call it, even at that late stage of the game, we're called bigots. Who radicalized you, bro? Those are the hills that you're choosing to die on. George Floyd? That's the hill you're picking to die on? A fentanyl addict. A fentanyl addict who, if left alone for 8 minutes, would have died right there on the sidewalk. A man who put a loaded handgun to a pregnant woman's stomach. And you're making murals to this savage? Who radicalized you, bro? You burned down cities. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Yes, thank you. At some point, right. We just want to be left alone. We just want to live normal, dignified lives like everyone else and just be left alone and love who we love and marry who we marry. And at some point, this happened. We're here. We're queer. We're coming for your children. Who radicalized you, bro? Yeah, fentanyl addict with 75 IQ. Thank you. Gay Sesame Street in the Middle East was funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Brian. Yeah, you're right on that. I still don't want my tax dollars going for it, but yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Here we go. No gestational limits. How about this? Here we go. I watch, dude. You guys act like I'm making this up. One of you out there thinks that I'm making this up. Alaska, Colorado, DC, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, and Vermont. Up until the moment of birth. Who radicalized you, bro? That did. We've got to be tolerant of Muslims and mosques in our communities. Oh, wait. Now you can't wear American flags. You can't wear American flags on your t-shirt if you're going to a public school because that might offend this other group. Oh, yeah, now we're going to have to change the menu. Oh, yeah, and by the way, this holiday, we can't really celebrate this holiday anymore. And, oh, and by the way, there's a disease going around, so we're going to have to close down. We're going to have to close down churches while we leave marijuana dispensaries open. And you guys can't have your Easter Sunday, but console yourselves over at the strip club. Half y'all are going there anyway. See, I will definitely call out my own on that. Half y'all are going there anyway. Console yourself. Church isn't open. Go to the strip club. Who radicalized you, bro? The fact that they're even asking the question lets you know that there's nothing. 420-acre Sharia law facility coming near Dallas. Yes. What is the one outside of Houston? What is the, damn it, Glenn Beck did a whole freaking thing on it. Place just outside of Houston where a whole community has come together for illegal immigrants. Whole freaking community has come together for illegal immigrants. ICE, you want to start? Start there. Who radicalized you, bro? Don't tell us we're angry, we're racist, we're bigoted, or any of these things. We were all getting along pretty damn well. You can only push people so far. All 59 right outside Cleveland, Texas. Colony Ridge, thank you. Joe and Ryan, Colony Ridge. Look into that. Who radicalized you, bro? Whoever enabled that. And then when we go to shut it down, you call and leak the information. People inside ICE call and leak the information so that violent criminals have a chance to continue to be free violent criminals. Do you understand? And most of all, mostly peaceful protests. You want to know who radicalized you, bro? It was anybody with two brain cells to rub together that had their face in front of a TV screen for all of 2020. Let alone the political disaster that ensued from the rigged election that followed just that year. Statues being pulled down, colleges, hospitals, churches being set on fire, BLM flags all over the place, riots in every major city in the United States of America for a dead fentanyl addict. Pushed by investors, pushed by leftist figures. Yeah. Immanuel Kant. Yep. I'm with you on that. Joe, do me a favor. Send me some information on that. I didn't hear that ICE had even gotten around to hitting him yet, but please send me some information to that to my inbox. In any case, cities on flame. I need to have cities. I need to have cities on flame just as a soundbite over there. Oh, they cleaned house, Dennis. I'm glad to hear that. That warms my cold little heart. Here's the point: you had cities on fire for an entire year, And the media, with a straight face with flames burning in the background, said, really, it's mostly peaceful. Joe, since you mentioned it, the Ryan Thauberns of the world. They even broke it down statistically. Thauburn did. He broke it down statistically. Well, we looked at all this and the numbers of people, and like 82% of the protests were nonviolent. Okay. There were 500,000 boots on there were quarter million boots on the ground on January 6th, 250,000 people. Less than 2,500 total arrests. So by your standard, Mr. Thauburn, the J6 protest was mostly peaceful. I digress. Cities on fire for an entire year for a dead fentanyl addict. And the media not only told us these are peaceful protests while we watched the city burn, politicians egged it on. A woman who would later come this close to becoming president set up a bail fund for the people who were burning things. The same time they're telling us that we can't get together for Sunday service at church, they are endorsing and advocating for people to take to the streets by the tens of thousands in close proximity, broad freaking daylight, to protest for a dead fentanyl addict. And insisting that if we saw anything wrong with that, we were science deniers or just bigots. Who radicalized you, bro? And we're getting to revisit that again this week. Elon Musk, the one they used to love, they are specifically targeting Tesla dealerships, starting fires. You ever seen what a lithium battery fire looks like? Has there been around that? But it's open season, and the same people that urged people to continue the protest, that we need to be in the streets for as long. If there's injustice, we need to be uprisings all over the. Okay, great. These are the same people, and now they're pushing the Tesla thing. Well, I'm not suggesting that people should do anything criminal or violent. You guys watched the Jimmy Kimmel show the other night? I want to snatch people up by their collars and punch them in the face. Whole crowd of NPCs out there just giggling. Well, I'm not suggesting we do anything bad to Tesla cars or anything. Anyway, the whole, oh, Jimmy, you're so funny. This is who we're dealing with, people. This is who we're dealing with. They're back, and they're burning stuff. And they're getting an early start this season, I've noticed. Last time around, they waited until the fourth year of the term to really crank it up. This time around, they're getting started early, and it just goes up from here. They're going to keep pushing. It's in their nature. They can't help themselves. They cannot push their ideas in a free marketplace of ideas because their policies have failed. The ideas that they get behind are so freaking outrageous that no mainstream American wants anything to do with that. They're falling off in droves, and they continue to double down. Without so much as a moment's reflection, they keep doubling down. And now they're back in the streets, and now they're burning stuff again. And the politicians are making excuses, and pretty soon there'll be bail funds for the mostly peaceful Tesla protests. The media has already kicked in. I watched an anchor the other night say, right, so Donald Trump is saying that attacks against a private company are domestic terrorism. What? No, he's saying that setting things on fire to send a political message is domestic terrorism, which, by definition, it is. The left's highbrow intellectual response, nuh-uh. That's what we're dealing with, man. Just got to get our heads around that. Don't get sucked in to the urge for retribution. We're in charge now. We're winning. They are literally trying to burn it to the ground rather than let the process play out. That is who they are. Cool. Time for us to show them who we are. And that doesn't mean, I could hear a little clickety click, a whole lot of knees starting to jerk out there. We show them who we are. I get to thinking about moments like that. I get to thinking about Malcolm X. What? You think about Malcolm X? What the hell are you talking about, bro? Two reasons. Number one, a speech that he gave once upon a time to Black America that held for Black America. And now I think it holds for white Americans of Northern European descent. But we don't even have to get that specific with it. I think it holds true for all Americans. And that speech was, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you, your brother Malcolm speaking to Black America back in the day, who taught you to hate the color of your skin so much that you would try to lighten it? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair so much that you would put filthy white man's poison chemicals in your hair that close to your brain and scrub that down into your scalp to be able to straighten because you don't like the texture? Who taught you to hate the sound of your own voice so much that you would alter your way of speaking just to please a race that all this? Brilliant speech. Who taught you to hate yourself? But that's not what I think about him in times like this. I think about it a little bit for that reason. But the thing that I think about Brother Malcolm in times like this is pretty much the code that the man lived by. You carry yourself as an upright citizen. You stand tall, back down from no man. You conduct yourself with respect. You obey the law. But if a man puts his hand on you, you do your level best to make sure that he is not around to put his hand on another human being. That's what I think about Brother Malcolm in times like this. Yeah, the speech that Brother Malcolm gave about white liberals being dangerous. Guys, if you ain't read a lot of Malcolm, and some of y'all out there might be a little hand twitch leaning, a little bit of stiff arm salute, that's cool. Read. If for no other reason than to get someone else's perspective. But you owe it to yourself. You should probably do some reading with Brother Malcolm. But that's what I think about him in times like this. Right? Yep. How's that working out for his followers today? Agreed? Carry yourself properly. Understand something, people. You're walking around angry and boiling over all the time. Why? Stress, yes. Concern, I get it. Frustration, definitely get that. Outrage, boy, talk to me about some outrage. I hear you, man, all day long. We're winning. You understand? We control the White House. We control both houses of Congress. We have a majority of conservative justices on the Supreme Court. A whole lot of state governors. 81%. You remember, 81% of counties swung from blue to red this last election. 81%. We have the momentum. Everything that he does that the media tells us, oh, he's done it now. How many more times can we get treated with that? Oh, it's the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. This will be the end of Donald Trump. We've got him now. Every single thing. The man's been in barely over a month, right? Dude's been in less than 3 months. And he hasn't fixed everything yet. They're going to boil him down, right? Of course they are. It's cool. Because everything they throw out that you're supposed to hate him for winds up getting the speech that he gave. The CNN was like, oh, this is going to light people up. 76% of respondents approved of the speech. Mass deportations, oh my God, nobody's going to. 70+% in every damn poll are in favor of the mass deportations. Across the board. We're winning. So stop. Because what they need for one of us to do right now is to pull some stupid brown shirt nonsense. Get up thumping our chest, some big high profile church bombing, clinic bombing, something that'll make their singing "We Shall Overcome" in 2024 look a bit less ridiculous. Something pops up like that's exactly what they need, man. Or God forbid, some high-profile elected official being killed. Some right-wing nut job. We don't need that right now. We can't afford that right now. It's going to have to be enough to know that we're winning. You conduct yourself as a respectable human being. Brother Malcolm said, you conduct yourself like a respectable human being. But if a man puts his hands to you, do you understand? We need to know where the limit is. We need to not waste time in the meantime and between time with the precious little time that we have available and at our disposal. We need to concentrate on fixing things. We need to focus on undoing damage. We need to focus on getting that rudder and sail set up to where we're sailing, to where that ship's moving forward. We need to be reaching out in our communities to young men in particular right now in this day and age. We need to be reaching out in our communities. We need to be doing what we do as conservatives in spite of how we've been painted. Because you and I both know. Ain't no outreach ministry for the local mosque going and taking care of people in Western North Carolina that lost everything to the flood. Ain't no community outreach from your local atheist or Satanist sewing circle to the residents of East Palestine, Ohio, for that chemical spill. It's not mosques that are doing the outreach, and it damn sure ain't the federal government. Who takes care of it? Good men on the ground, good men in their communities, good men who attend church on Sundays, good men that are trying to raise good sons and continue traditions of good families. That's who takes care of it, and that's who we need to be striving to be instead of wasting our time with all this. How are we going to get back at these sons of bitches? Man, they did all this and they did all that. Yes, and there needs to be consequences, and they're coming, man. But we got to keep our faith and let the boss man handle the big bulk of the majority of that. Those consequences come in due time, and I know the waiting is the hardest part, son. I get it. But we need to focus on fixing those college kids, man. This is what I'm talking about in the opener between the two Americas. This is what I'm talking about. Those kids that are taking their spring break, and instead of sitting around doing bong hits or going and partying and drugging themselves into oblivion with their friends, they took their entire spring break to travel at their own expense to Western North Carolina and take care of people they'd never even met. Who's doing that? Federal government? Nope. Who's doing that? The churches are doing that. The people are doing that. That's where our energy needs to be focused. Compare and contrast that with the same college age range that are going to Tesla dealerships and setting stuff on fire. That's the other America. They have the full faith and backing of the political left. They have the full faith and backing of the political left. What? Oh, you think these protests are happening organically? Just on their own, right? Let me give you a little search term here. You ready? Anti-Tesla protest funded by. Roll with that. Turns out it's a California Democratic donor, and I'll give you one guess at what parasite he's attached to. First name George. Yeah, big shot. These are funded. These are organized. And you can bet your ass that there is a bail fund online for any of the people that are facing it. But here's the difference, people. We're in the lead now. Do you understand? We control both houses of Congress and the judiciary largely. I'll get to that in a minute because I can already hear some of you bristling. Yeah, but what about... I'm getting there. We have the Oval Office. We have both houses of Congress. And we have the Supreme Court. For what that may or may not be worth. We have the Supreme Court. Do you understand? And this time, it will not be the way it was. Do you know how they were able to get away with burning down Portland for a whole freaking month? Do you know how they were able to do that? Because the local DAs refused to press charges. The local DAs refused to prosecute. The local DAs may as well have said, don't even bother arresting him. Because literally the second they were dropped off downtown in Portland, they were right back out again and right back on the front line throwing Molotov cocktails. It's a little bit different when it goes federal, Sparky. What are we going to hear? Oh, another dictatorial move. Another just like Hitler. Swoon, fainting couch. Who radicalized you, bro? This isn't a matter of radicalization. It's a matter of awakening. And the American people are awake. For the first time in decades, they are awake. And they may not like that spray tan son of a bitch. The way he talks, anything that he has to say about anything, but they know in their heart of hearts that when they threw that lever or they signed that box or they ticked that chat or whatever it was, they knew what they were voting for. And this is exactly what they asked for. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. And they're getting it. This is going to continue. Conduct yourself like a gentleman. Obey the law. This is what I'm talking about. All of these things are going to shake out the way they're going to shake out, but now it's federal. Pop! Bring it down hard. Lock them straight up, and they will get the message. What is that? A bunch of traditional spring break hotspots are having outbreaks of dengue. I'm not shocked. I'm not going to get into all that. Here's the thing, people. We're winning. Let it play out. Let the good people do what they need to do. For us, that means helping out in our communities. For us, that means reaching out to the people closest to us. That means reaching out to family. That means being involved with the church. That means being involved with community organizations. If you're a prepper, there are prepper networks all over the country, right? People that are there for disaster response. And you can bet there's going to be some disasters, natural and man-made, coming down the pipeline over the course of the next 4 years. Get together with the people who are coordinating those things. Learn ham radio, learn first aid. Put your ass under some iron and get this working. Put your ass in some classes. And if you don't know, then you don't throw. Find somebody. Get together and just hit a bag, man. Heavy bag costs what, $60? Hang that in your garage and just punch it. Just hit something. Do it consistently, man. Improve yourself so you are going to be of some use to those people who are counting on you, because guess what? The good guys are back in charge. We're going to start shutting this stuff down. But ain't nobody coming to save us. That's another difference in those two Americas that we were talking about. Ain't nobody coming to save us when it all comes down. We need to count on that. I guarantee you the people of East Palestine, Ohio, would have been a hell of a lot better position and are going to be in a hell of a lot better position now that Trump is in office. I will say that it is already self-evident at the difference, comparison, contrast for the people of Western North Carolina, that a Trump Federal Emergency Management Agency versus his predecessor of actually having boots on the ground, actually being able to take care of people. But you cannot 100% count on that. You can't count on it. So be ready in case of emergencies. You got to be ready for the day-to-day life. But ultimately, it's about making yourself a better person. And if you're a man of faith, put your face in some scripture, Sparky. Get on it. Every night. Every night. One chapter. Pick a book. Don't care. One chapter. Pick a book. Don't care. Get your face in some scripture. I promise you, man. My word. What do the kids say? On God, bro. I give you my word. You get your face in some scripture every single night and your ass under some iron at least 3 days out of the week, your life is going to improve. Your life is going to improve. And all my people over here in the comments, reach out to each other, man. Plenty of y'all live within easy driving distance of each other. Meet up. Figure out what skills you got. Maybe you know some computer stuff that he doesn't. Maybe he knows some jujitsu that you need. This is what real community looks like, people. This is what real optimism looks like. This is what, and I'm, say I'm being jingoistic or whatever the hell they want to say, man. It don't fade me. This is what being American looks like. A lot of y'all too young. A lot of y'all don't remember. Bill, you remember, right? That almost sounds like I'm calling him out for being old. Ryan remembers. I remember. Roman remembers. Dennis remembers. Wasn't always like this, people. Wasn't always like this. This is a very, very recent development. I would say probably starting with what midway through Clinton's first term, maybe they started to shift. But it doesn't matter. Once upon a time, being an American meant something. It was part of who you are, and it was part of what you were raised to want to represent, what you were raised to want to exemplify. And I'm going to say this for my brothers in faith. I know nobody here, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Maybe you might need to steer them just a little bit. The ones who are doing that milquetoast, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. Ain't no such thing as halfway Christians either, Sparky. Get your butt in gear. Get your butt in gear. Better be walking it, man. Better be walking it, because once upon a time, being a Christian meant something. I remember, because I was raised in the church as a kid. It meant something to be a Christian. It's supposed to mean something to be a Christian. But if you were a Christian and you were American, well, then you're a white Christian nationalist, and that's a right. Who radicalized you, bro? Don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. But heed those words from Brother Malcolm, man. Be thinking about that. I don't want this to come to that level. But you have to understand that you are dealing with a group of people who are just as fundamentalist as the most. They are just as fundamentalist as the worst of the worst radical Islamists. Only their religion is the state. Their religion is degeneracy. Their religion is depravity. Their religion is woke, for whatever that means. But they will defend it just like a religion. They will defend it violently, just like religious extremists do. So keep your head on a swivel and keep your ass under some iron. They're going, guys. They're on their way out. They're losing horribly. Revel in that. Feel good about that. Every time you see them raise some judicial objection and it gets shot down, revel in that moment and thank the boss man. But ultimately, you gotta be realistic, man. You gotta be realistic. These are dangerous people. The same level of danger that they have projected on us for as long as any of us can remember, they are manifesting it on a day-to-day basis. Oh, we had a little dust up at the Capitol on January the 6th, right? When was the last time that you can remember that any conservative cause had every major city in the United States on fire for weeks? When was the last time that happened? You go ahead and do a Google search on that. Look it up. Hit me back. Let me know when you come up with something. I'll be interested to see it. Know who you're dealing with. That's not to be alarmist, because damn sure ain't nothing to be afraid of. But weak people are unpredictable. They're predictable only in the sense that they'll do whatever the glowing box politely suggests to them that they'll do. They'll do whatever that Maddow fella tells them might be a good idea. They'll do whatever Jimmy Kimmel goes, don't do that. These people are capable of and inclined to great violence. Great violence. So, head on a swivel, face in some scripture, ass under some iron, chin down, knuckles up. And then walk out into this great, big, beautiful world. Take a moment to look up and say, Lord God, you have gifted me another day to live your will and speak your word. Let me not squander it. Amen. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. I love y'all, man. I love y'all. We close with a prayer, just real quick. If y'all would be kind enough to indulge me. Lord God, I thank you for this morning at Living Stones. Pastor Grant, it was a fantastic message. But I thank you for every single day, Lord. Thank you for every single day and every single breath. I thank you for giving me the ability and proclivity and talent, for lack of a better word, to be able to communicate. I thank you for giving me the reach to speak to people, to give them something to make them want to make themselves better and and to be, hopefully, on my best day, be able to inspire them somewhat, evangelize by example, that they want a closer walk with you, Lord. That's what I'm in this for. I'm in this to serve, Lord, not to aggrandize myself. This is all about the kingdom. Thank you for all the victories, Lord. Thank you for all the victories, the ones that we're having, in the courtroom, the ones that we're having in the court of public opinion, the ones that we're having on an individual level on a day-to-day basis. Things we might not like the judicial outcome, but it was a hell of a lot better than it could have been. Taking a moment to thank you for that. Keep us on the path, Lord. Just keep us on the path. If there's somebody out there right now who's struggling, give them that spark to reach out. If not to me, to someone else. Give them that spark to reach out. Maybe if they're totally up against it, if they reach out to you straight away and just say, Lord, this ain't for me. I can't handle it anymore. I can't. I'm broken. The weight is too heavy. I feel like I can't be redeemed for any of the things that I've done. Let them know how wrong they are, Lord. Let them know how wrong they are. And most of all, let them not get overwhelmed with the perceived strength of the enemy and the adversary. Because at the end of the day, he's nothing. All he can do is plant seeds. He can't even twist arms. All he can do is plant seeds. Let him know that the God that we worship, the God that we follow, conquered the grave. Conquered the grave. So anything coming short of that isn't an obstacle at all. We can do some great things through the Lord our God. Let them know that they are not alone. Let them know that there is a greater strength out there that they can call on. Before they give up, please, Lord, I ask you to move them to reach out. And when we get the calling, that we heed it. Give us all strength, clarity, and discernment, Lord. Strength, clarity, and discernment for the days ahead. Fight ain't coming, it's here. Good news is we win. Thank you, Lord, for that blessing in and of itself is more than enough to carry us through the day. I give thanks to you. Keep your protective hand over us and your guiding hand in front of us as we carry it forward. Take this on one step at a time, one day at a time, one victory at a time, all of which to serve the kingdom. Omnia ad regnum, all things for the kingdom, Lord. I pray in the name of the risen Christ, whose blood bought our redemption and whom I ever serve. Amen. I love y'all. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. I'm gonna pass around a little digital collection plate, and you guys already know the drill, man. I'm on Cash App, Venmo, Facebook Pay, yada 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 yada. But it's not about that. If you want to kick down, that's really really cool. But at the end of the day, not going to be absolutely necessary because, thankfully, I'm out here working. God has blessed me like that. But I'll tell you what, if you want to kick down, I will still definitely be appreciative. I'll be in your debt. But if you can't, I get that too. We're still a little shaky, economically speaking. But here's what you can do. You can extend the reach of the program. You can share it on your Facebook page. Say, hey, man, we got this right-wing nut job, fat, toothless, crippled crane operator with a few opinions he'd like to share with you. Tell him to show up on a Sunday, man. He'll rant and rave at you for a couple hours. But above and beyond all that, man, what you can do, not just for me, but primarily for yourselves. Stone, if you're still here, what are we going to tell him? Stone, what are we going to tell him, brother? Live the three. Live the three. Live the three. What are you talking about? Live the three. The three prime directives, brother. The three prime directives. That's what I'm talking about. Live the three. Three prime directives are just good, solid rules to live by that'll help you out a little bit. Rule number one is about signal and noise. And you guys know, if you know anything about radio communication, you know the formula, signal to noise ratio. The noise is the distractions. That's what they try to cloud your head with. They try to cloud your judgment with all that. They make you think there's nothing but the noise. You have to be the signal. Signal is the truth. Signal is a relevant fact. Signal is the gospel that penetrates through the noise and touches the mind, the heart, and the soul. You got to be that signal in a world full of noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness. Because they'll try to bury you with the darkness. Try to bury you, make you think there's nothing left but that darkness. They will demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with that darkness. You have got to be the light. You got to be the light that punches through to the other side of the fog, and you got to be the one that carries it long enough to where even through the thickest fog, they'll be able to see it from the other side. Which takes us to our third and final rule, the iron rule: strength. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not just talking about this kind of strength. This kind of strength, very good, very important. But it's got to be here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here, man. Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you will not have the tenacity to carry that light through the fog, get them out of the darkness. You won't have the punch to get that signal through the noise. Without strength, it all fails, man. So strength above all. And when you pray, strength, clarity, and discernment. Because no matter how strong you are, the adversary is still out there. He's always running that game. He will try to trip you up. He'll plant those seeds, try to have you believe in stuff you never did. Dude, he'll scramble your head up, man. So you better have discernment, because no matter how strong you are, it goes for nothing if you were deceived, taken outside of your own mind. Strength, clarity, and discernment. Always. You pray, those are the three things that you pray for. And I'm going to be praying for y'all. Love every single one of y'all for being here, man. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. God bless each and every one of y'all for being here, man. I mean that. My heart. God bless y'all. I love you. I am the Reverend. Catch you next Sunday. God willing, of course. Deus Volt, brother. God bless y'all. Thank you. Love y'all.